Hey, it's Phil from Out of Bounds Astrology coming at you from the forest. I'm here to talk about the Saturn South Node conjunction that's happening right now. It's a conjunction that I've been pondering for some months, and I have a lot to share. So, buckle up. First of all, this conjunction happens about every 12 years or so. The last one was in October 2007. And usually, when this conjunction takes place, the 2 points, Saturn and the South Node, kind of cross each other, and it maybe lasts, a good week or two. This time, though, is a little different because just as Saturn comes to meet the South Node, which is always going in retrograde, Saturn stations retrograde. That's on April 30th, 2019. They meet just as Saturn stations retrograde, and they start dancing backwards as far as Saturn is concerned. And this goes on for really about 6 months. So a conjunction that would usually be a week or two long is now 6 months long, and it all kind of sets the stage for the big Saturn Pluto conjunction next January. So there's really a lot to unpack, and that's what I'm here to do because like I said, I've been thinking about this for a while and writing about it incessantly. So something has possessed me to become really, really into this particular conjunction. Maybe the fact that the second exact conjunction is on my birthday, um, September 28th. So that happening um, maybe is leading me to talk more about it and share as much as I can about it and hope to get the message out. I know that the North Node is talked about much more than the South Node, at least here in the West. So I wanted to give a little bit of info on the South Node, very little bit of info because I could go on and on about it. It's a point that means a lot to me and comes up a lot in my life. So the South Node, I'll just talk about the meaning of it. It's kind of an opening, right, along which the eclipses occur, the North and South nodes. So this is the opening in which through which things can exit. Energy can be released or excreted. So release is more of a voluntary. Excretion is more of like the energy itself is like, I'm getting the hell out of here. So that's it's known as the dragon's tail in Vedic astrology, um, and this again plays into the excretive corridor that through which energies can pass, or anything really. So just as things can pass out, things can also come in, kind of undetected. So when the South Node is activated, it's good to have strong boundaries, and that's what Saturn is all about. So I think these two together is a pretty rich combination. Ideally, this is the song. Exiting energies through the South Node are energies that are unessential. They're not healthy. Um, they don't contribute to fullness, to a full expression of whatever planet they're touching, whatever energies they're touching. Um, and then this has like an effect of making full or making something more part of its essence. So I I think a good phrase to describe the effect is a deepening through diminishment. And that's a phrase that I borrow from Stephen Jenkinson, one of my favorite writers, who doesn't write about astrology at all, but you still might like him. So it's kind of like a strengthening that happens with the South Node. but it's not in the way that we think of strengthening in the West in dominant culture. It's more of a strengthening by way of pruning, like you're strengthening the greater plant body by pruning off the dead non-essential parts. Um, if, however, the non-essential energies are clung to by you or whoever, me, and they're not allowed to leave, they quickly become kind of volatile for that body, that planet, and then that planet or point turns into this crux of weakness, and it can kind of be a point of undoing. So if you have South Node in your chart conjunct Jupiter, then trying your luck at gambling all the time is going to be your undoing. You're not going to win. You're not going to be a good gambler. And so if you keep pushing that, if you keep clinging to something like gambling or trying your luck, etc., then it's going to be your undoing. And so you have to watch out for the planets that the South Node is conjunct in your chart. Just make sure that you're not pushing the envelope. You have to accept that these planets are more adept in a sort of holistic, like Eastern way, or an indigenous way, and they're going to function very powerfully, but it has to be through a certain approach. The approach that is very reverent to nature, to the spirit world. The approach that is honoring and respectful. The sort of grace that I hope comes in strong with Saturn and the South Node conjunct. So now a little bit about Saturn. We know that the South Node is really concerned with lessons that revolve around unattachment. So what is Saturn about? Saturn, when Saturn is exhibiting itself in a healthy way, to me, serves as a sort of guardian for the other planets, kind of keeping their energies in balance. Saturn's really about temperance, keeping things in check, keeping things in moderation. So Saturn has a lot of wisdom teachings to deliver, and it's definitely interested in protecting the sacred. So I think of Saturn initially was understood as the last planet in the solar system. It was the furthest planet that we could see until we started poking around with telescopes, which was, thousands of years after astrology was developed. So for most of the history of astrology, Saturn was the final planet. It was the boundary. It was the end. And then we discover that, no, there's more planets out there. Saturn was just kind of standing guard. And those are extremely powerful magical planets. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron, some very, very powerful energies out there that Saturn is trying to protect. So the sacred is what Saturn is interested in protecting. Saturn represents elements of the sacred masculine. Saturn is really interested in systems, is one thing that I notice a lot. And ideally, those systems that are created with Saturn in mind retain balance and efficiency. For example, the skeletal system. So in medical astrology, Saturn rules the bones and the skeleton, which is kind of the framework. It's my framework. It holds me together, keeps me from falling apart as I traipse through the woods or doing anything. All of us thankful for the skeleton, right? Saturn also is concerned, like the South Node, with the essential, right? So when we go through our Saturn return, Saturn is helping us align with our own state of grace. And ideally, Saturn is helping structures, like a system or structure designed with Saturn in mind is going to be perfectly. It's a very graceful system, and grace to me, when I'm talking about it right now, I'm talking about like true essence. Like the Saturn return can get you to your true essence, uh, to a place of purity, to a place of fullness and potency and presence. You're really there. Like that's real power. That's actual power. That's Saturn informed power. That's not colonial power, or like that's not reaching for power because you feel powerless. That's just like a presence, a very strong foundational presence. That's what Saturn wants to instill. Um, so part of Saturn also being at the supposed edge of the solar system back when, um, it was given this like, and this still keeps this indication of limit and ending. Like Saturn sets the boundary. Saturn indicates loss and ending, death, um, things that keep us humble, right? Things that enable us to operate semi-freely, within this framework around us. So we have to have a good relationship with Saturn in order to recognize the limits and really come to our grace within them. So now that we've cleared up what a healthy Saturn looks like, when we start to consider the way things are right now in dominant culture here in the West in 2019, um, it becomes pretty apparent that we live in a time when Saturn's well-being is, not well. It's been really compromised. Um, this has led to some toxic manifestations of Saturn, and really because Saturn is such a guardian, it's led to toxic representations of all the planets, and these representations are kind of just like running amok. Um, so we have to keep our check up while the South Node and Saturn are conjunct, because this could have an effect of a weakening of the guardianship that Saturn is trying to provide. So watch out for watch out for the bad stuff, um, but really all you that's not really the focus that I want to deliver. I think mostly not watch out for the bad stuff so much as embody the good stuff, embody the pure good. Um, so some other manifestations that we can see of this really unhealthy, unfortunately polluted Saturn. Um, the divine masculine seems to really just be something that survives in like its own underground scene. Um, in dominant culture, the the quintessential man is a man who has material wealth, and he's unsatisfied and he wants more wealth. He's just always gunning for more. So that's what we see, and that tends to be what our culture honors. Um, Also, we're not in the business of honoring elderhood right now. We're not in the business of honoring sacredness and wisdom. Instead of honoring elders, we have a sequestered aging population. Instead of honoring wisdom, we honor kind of like a what's new ism, and then its inevitable partner, which is like confusion, like all this new stuff all the time. How could someone with this constant accelerating rate of change not be confused eventually? Like it's hard to keep up, and so you see the aging population choosing or either choosing or being put into a sequestration, uh, and then the knowledge, the authority that Saturn would normally carry, isn't a sacred thing anymore. We've stripped Saturn of its sacredness, and we've rested our modern paradigm of knowledge on this really hypothesis that everything is random and meaningless. So we've completely cut out the sacred in the way that we approach knowledge. We also see everywhere unsustainable systems that are based on speed, based on greed and profit, and must have constant, accelerating, unchecked growth. Think of our economy. If the excessive, incessant growth slows down at all, the financial world is ringing the alarm. Um, Whereas a natural system, on the other hand, has determined limits, and that's built in, right? So my skeleton, it might shrink, but at this point, I'm not gonna get any taller, um, and that's good because now I can navigate in my body. Now I have this familiarity with my body. After I stopped growing, I stopped stumbling, eventually, uh, and this is what a healthy Saturn would look like. Acknowledging limit is what leads to true flourishment in the present. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be an extended conjunction. These two points are going to be rolling together through the zodiac for about 6 months, and Pluto isn't far away, and Pluto likes to make things happen too. So there's, I feel, a potential for a lot of different shifts to be happening, and to me, they're all necessary shifts and shifts that I'm excited about. Um, So let's get down to it. I feel like, first of all, the dysfunctional structures and systems are going to have a time of struggle. Uh, Saturn and South Node together often indicates that karma is going to get paid. So the time to pay the karmic debt has come. Um, the systems I'm thinking about, in particular, like large scale farming that robs soil of its nutrients and destroys forests, leaves things completely bereft of life. Branch in with conventional construction that's obsessed with things being cheap, things getting built fast, and without like regard for any sort of sacredness, any sort of beauty, any sort of blessing. And really large companies in general are gonna be experiencing some karmic repay. However, really the bigger companies are pretty much built to weather hard times, and their backup plans tend to draw resources from the bottom up. So the labor class, the poor among us, as far as materially poor, are going to be the ones, I think, to foot the bill, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that that will get people to disinvest from that system, realize that it's not serving them. So them, and then the people who recognize, including them, that the corrupted systems of dominant culture do nothing but take from them, these folks may finally elect to turn the tables and begin to abandon the global economic system and form or join more localized economies. Like just keeping your resources within your community. Saying, what, this plant doesn't grow around here. Maybe I should get more in touch with the food that grows around where I live, and um, get to know people so that I have more relationship involved in my life, and that's my main capital. Or it's becoming more capital than just money, which I'm spending, so much time trying to make, and then it all just disappears. So there's potential for that. Also, this kind of goes with that. If you're North Node oriented, so if you're oriented towards like a life of constant gain, and just like you're out here just like on the prowl looking for like what you can get, um, and you're just eating, then because that's the dragon's mouth, that's the north node, the tail is the south node. If you're just out here eating, then you're going to struggle a lot more than people who are more south node oriented, and who are on a spiritual path to begin with. So it would be a really nice time if you're more in the north node realm, which we need you guys, to kind of temper that, balance that, bring in that south node energy and the Saturn energy together. Bring some temperance in. Otherwise, you're going to be, clinging to things that aren't working for you, and you're going to be disappointed, right? It's going to become a weakness. The time is ripe for spiritual growth, and it's not really so ripe for material growth. So, if there's an opportunity to flourish, then I recommend taking it. I also am kind of sensing a cultural shift toward, and this has been going on, I feel like, for a while, but I feel like it's really going to be supported energetically now. A cultural shift toward seeking out our ancestry and doing ancestral lineage repair. So we're going to be connecting with our ancestors spiritually, and trying to help our families heal, and help our ancestors heal. It can be really simple. I definitely suggest Googling it, or searching it out in some way if you're curious about that sort of healing. Also included in that, I find, is this push toward navigating our way to more functional indigenous traditions and techniques, um, ways and systems that imitate nature. So we're going to continue the boost about the indigenous values, and trying to draw what we can find from the few intact cultures, that's valuable now. I would recommend the writings of Martine Prechtel and Sabonfu Some, Malidoma Patrice Some. Three really great teachers right there, who have a lot of indigenous teachings from different spots, and they've been a big help to me. I know that they've been their teachings have been very supportive to me. One thing that I see potential for also is it has to do with the aging population. Um, for those approaching old age and approaching retirement, this is a really good time to call it and begin devoting energy to this phase of your life, approaching your death, approaching your end. There's lots of ways that you can do that, uh, and be bolstered by this energy. So the push to seek within and become more attentive to self, as you're letting things fall away, you become more attentive to what's going on inside of you and immediately surrounding you. There's a really nice potential to just wonder, to just be with yourself and wonder about elderhood and what does that mean. It's something that's disappearing, or maybe has disappeared from our culture. So what can you do to embody elderhood and what that means to you? Because the younger generations are looking for you. Um, so it's a chance to age in a way that is deepening and enriching. You're going to be dropping the culture of gain. You're going to be dropping out of the rat race, and you're going to be hoping to age more like wine, right? To become more full-bodied. Um, This is like you're going to be bringing a focus to quality instead of quantity, right? And dearness, things that are dear to you, instead of like, oh, everything's in scarcity. I need more. I need more. I'm not safe. I need more time. I wish I was young. Why is this happening? It's time to unattach yourself from those things and step into a place of stability and wisdom and acceptance. It's time for all of us to find our grace, to find our actual power, right? To find our pure essence. Perhaps you feel like you're there, or you feel like, I'm on that path. Or maybe it feels distant and cloudy. Um, but no matter what, this is a great time for it. So let's get it done. Especially with Saturn and Pluto coming together next January with other planets, in tow, and Jupiter conjunct the South Node. Then I feel like I'm really excited for these 6 months. It's time for essence, right? It's time to let the non-essential slide away. We're going to be reaching for grace. We're going to be seeking to align with our truth. And sometimes there's falls involved in that, and that's totally okay. We need to have compassion for that, and stay unattached to result. You know, that's what the South Node is all about. So there's some dates to keep in mind over these next months. Obviously, April 30th, like I said, is the first conjunction. It's at 20 degrees Capricorn. Saturn's going to be stationing, so it's kind of really charged. Then they're going to be, rolling together. June 14th through 19th, Mars and Mercury are going to be in Cancer, opposing Saturn and Pluto in the South Node. And they're going to be hanging out the North Node. So I feel like that's definitely like an energy battle there. Should be interesting. July 16th, there's going to be a full moon and lunar eclipse. There's going to be lots of planets involved. Venus and Saturn are going to be in exact opposition. Obviously, Sun and Moon opposite. So there's going to be a lot going on with Sun, Venus, and North Node in Cancer, while Moon, Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node are in Capricorn. And again, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We'll have to see as we get closer to that time. August is going to be, I feel like, a bit of a break from this energy, because Saturn and the South Node are going to kind of loosen up their conjunction for a little bit. Just really from August 3rd to September 9th, they're not within a 2-degree orb of each other. So it may chill out a bit, but then September is going to kick back, and then September 28th is going to be the second and final conjunction of Saturn and the South Node, and that's going to be at about 14 degrees Capricorn. And it's going to happen at 2:22 in the morning as far as the East Coast, which is where I live, which I think is really cool because 2:22 is my South Node and North Node degree. So I really, once I saw that, I was like, time to dedicate some energy to this stuff. And then by mid-October, the Saturn and South Node are going to be, separating again, and they're not going to be hanging out in this conjunctive way, again until October of 2030. And then they're going to be actually weaving again a little bit, and they're going to meet again in February of 2031. But, maybe when that comes around, it would be a more interesting time to talk about it. But right now, let's just focus on the now. I felt like I might leave something out as I was approaching doing this video and making my notes on it, which you can find under the video. And so I asked my partner, who is a diviner of elemental beings, if she could do any channeling concerning this conjunction. And we got to it, and I thought maybe it would, just be a few minutes of messages. And then she ended up channeling for over 20 minutes. So I was thinking about incorporating originally her channelings into the video, and then when she kept going, I was like, this is your own thing. And so you can find what the elementals are saying about this conjunction through going to her website, which is bearrootawakenings.com. And she's got a post up right now that's all about Saturn conjunct the South Node. She says some really interesting things about remediating the effect of the energy. If you're a little worried or you feel like maybe a little then she's got some cool ideas that came through about how to remediate the stuff and kind of guard yourself, because like we said, there's stuff that's going to be coming in too, and it's really hard to detect. So how can you set your boundaries? She said some really cool things about using bones and calling in the energy of the snow leopard, which after I went and read about the snow leopard, of course from Ted Andrews' book Animals Speak, I was just blown away by how much the snow leopard lessons really apply to this time, and all the lessons that I'm trying to talk about with Saturn in the South Node. So go check out what she has to say, and I hope you enjoyed what I have to say about this. It's definitely on my mind all the time, and I think it's going to be, for me, a time where I'm going to be writing a lot about Saturn. I think I'm starting a book about Saturn right now. So look out for that in the years to come. And, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my name is whitetail_doe. I really encourage you to share this video, because I don't know a lot of astrologers who are concerned with these energies right now, and I feel like it's really important to keep this stuff in mind. I feel like these are very crucial messages. So I would hope that if you found this of value, that you would share it with somebody. You can reach out to me through my website, outofbouncedAstrology.com, or leave a comment here. So yeah, happy end of April, beginning of May, and let's do this. I'm really excited.